My name is Taylor Mitchell, and for 30 years I was the daughter my parents forgot to love. While my brother Blake collected trophies and family photos, I collected silence and excuses. I learned to speak quietly, need nothing, and show up with my wallet open whenever they called. They thought I was weak. They thought I was desperate for belonging. They had no idea I was the one holding their entire world together, until the day I let go. My mother's text arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing client portfolios. "Don't bother coming home for Christmas. We're going to Aspen with Blake's family. You wouldn't fit in anyway." No warmth, no apology, just dismissal wrapped in 23 words. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Blake was my younger brother, the golden child who could do no wrong. I set my phone down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. Instead, something cold and clear settled in my chest. I opened my laptop and made one quiet decision that would change everything. For years, I'd been the invisible daughter, the one who sent money when they needed it, the one who showed up when Blake forgot. But this Christmas, they'd finally see me. Not because I'd beg for their attention, but because I'd bought every single thing they thought they owned. Growing up in Portland, I learned early that family wasn't about fairness. It was about performance. Blake got the bedroom with the view, the new gaming systems, the college fund that never seemed to run dry. I got hand-me-down furniture and lectures about gratitude. When Blake crashed Dad's car at 19, they bought him a newer one. When I asked for help with textbooks, Mom said I should have saved better. The pattern was so predictable it stopped hurting. I just adapted, got quieter, worked harder, and built a life they never bothered to understand. By the time I moved to Seattle for my finance job, I'd already learned the most important lesson. If you want to survive, you build your own foundation. And I built mine carefully, silently, without their knowledge or permission. 3 years ago, Dad called me at midnight, panicking. The ski lodge they'd booked for Blake's engagement party was demanding full payment up front, and their credit cards were maxed. $32,000, he said, voice tight. "Can you help just this once?" I wired the money the next morning. No contract, no thanks, just a promise they'd pay me back within 6 months. That was 40 months ago. Last winter, Mom called about property taxes on their Portland house. "We're a little short this year," she said lightly, as if asking me to pass the salt. I paid it. Then came the car repairs, the emergency dental work for Blake, the trip to Hawaii they absolutely needed. Every time I told myself it was temporary. Every time I was wrong. The thing about being the responsible child is that nobody notices your sacrifice. They just expect it. While Blake posted photos from Cancun, I worked late, building my portfolio, managing investments, climbing steadily through my firm. My boss once told me I had the sharpest financial instincts she'd ever seen. If only I'd used them on my own family sooner. But last month, something shifted. I was organizing tax documents when I found an old file labeled Property Records. Inside was the deed to their Portland house, the one they'd nearly lost 3 years ago. The one I'd saved with that midnight wire transfer. My stomach dropped when I saw my name listed as co-owner. Dad had added me during the refinance to improve their loan terms. They never mentioned it, never thanked me, never acknowledged that I legally owned half their home. That's when I started digging deeper. I pulled up bank records, loan documents, payment histories. The ski lodge bill I'd paid. It was never for Blake's engagement. It was for a family reunion I wasn't invited to. The property taxes, they'd already been paid through Dad's retirement fund. He just wanted extra cash. Every emergency I'd funded was a lie carefully crafted to keep me useful and unaware. I sat at my kitchen table as Seattle rain drummed against the windows, and for the first time in my life I didn't feel sad. I felt awake. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom. "Blake's fiancé is so excited for Aspen. It'll be nice to have a real family Christmas for once." Real family. The words sat heavy in my chest, but I didn't respond. I had better plans. I called my lawyer the next morning, a sharp woman named Patricia who never wasted time on sympathy. I told her everything. The co-ownership, the fake emergencies, the years of payments I could prove. "How much do you want back?" she asked. I paused. I didn't want their money. I wanted something bigger. "I want control," I said. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Let's make it happen." Over the next 2 weeks, we moved carefully. I reviewed every document, every receipt, every text message where they'd asked for help. The pattern was undeniable. They'd used me like a private bank, and I had records of everything. When Patricia finally called with the plan, her voice was calm. We can file for formal co-ownership acknowledgement and force a buyout or sale, but there's another option. What option? I asked. Patricia's smile was audible through the phone. You already own half that house. With your payment history and their debt load, we can petition for full ownership transfer based on financial contribution. They'd have to buy you out at market value or you'd get the house. The house they'd raised Blake in. The house they'd never let me feel at home in. How long? I asked. 3 weeks, maybe less if they cooperate. I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Christmas was 5 weeks away. Plenty of time. Do it, I said. Patricia paused. Are you sure? This will burn every bridge. I thought about the text, about years of being invisible, about Blake's face in every family photo while I was cropped out. They already burned it, I said. I'm just making it official. The first notice arrived at their house on a Friday. I know because Blake called me, screaming. What the hell did you do? Dad got some legal papers saying you're claiming the house. I stayed calm. I'm claiming what's mine. I paid for half of it. Check the deed. You can't just take someone's house, he yelled. I could hear Mom crying in the background. I'm not taking it, I said quietly. I'm asking to be bought out. Market value is around $700,000. They can pay me $350,000 for my half, or we can sell it and split the proceeds. The line went silent except for Mom's sobs. Blake's voice dropped. You're insane. You know they don't have that kind of money. I did know. That was the point. Then they should have thought about that before lying to me for 3 years. Dad called next. His voice was tight, controlled, the way it always got when he was furious but trying to stay calm. We raised you better than this. I almost laughed. You raised Blake, I raised myself. He exhaled sharply. This is about Christmas, isn't it? Your mother didn't mean it that way. You're being dramatic. Dramatic. The word they always used when I had feelings they didn't want to deal with. No, I said. This is about 40 months of unpaid loans. This is about lying to me. This is about pretending I don't exist unless you need money. We never lied, he said weakly. I opened my laptop, pulling up the records. March 2022. You told me the ski lodge needed $32,000 for Blake's engagement party. I have the receipt. It was for a family reunion in Vail. I wasn't invited. Silence. Should I keep going? I asked. Dad's voice cracked. What do you want from us? It was the first honest question he'd ever asked me. I thought about it. What did I want? An apology, an acknowledgement? For them to finally see me? No, I wanted something simpler. I want you to face consequences, I said. The call ended without a goodbye. That night I barely slept. Not from guilt, but from clarity. For years, I'd convinced myself that family meant enduring pain quietly. But watching the rain streak down my window, I realized something. Family wasn't supposed to hurt. And the people who hurt you don't get to keep doing it just because you share blood. By morning, my decision was made. I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Not ever again. I called Patricia. Move forward with everything. And I need you to do one more thing. Patricia listened as I explained my plan. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You're sure? I was. Do it. 3 days later, Mom called. Her voice was small, shaken. We got another letter from some travel company. They're saying our Aspen deposit was refunded. Blake's fiancée is losing her mind. What's happening? I took a slow breath. I bought the reservation. You what? I repeated it slowly. I contacted the resort, explained the situation. Paid double to transfer the booking into my name. Your Aspen trip, it's mine now. The silence on the other end was so complete I thought she'd hung up. Then she whispered, Why would you do this? Because you told me not to come home for Christmas, I said. So I'm making sure you don't have one either. The line went dead. Blake's fiancée, Amanda, called me next. I almost didn't answer. You're ruining everything, she cried. This was supposed to be our first Christmas as an engaged couple. How could you be so selfish? Selfish. I'd heard that word my entire life. Usually right before someone asked me for money. Amanda, I said calmly, did Blake ever tell you who paid for your engagement ring? Silence. Or who covered his car payments for 8 months last year when he was between jobs? Her voice was smaller now. I didn't know. That's the problem, I said. Nobody ever knows because I'm only visible when they need something. She hung up without another word. I sat in my apartment watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Blake, calls from Dad, voicemails from Mom. I didn't open any of them. I'd spent 30 years listening. Now it was their turn to sit in silence. Christmas week arrived cold and clear. Seattle's streets glowed with lights, and everywhere I looked, families gathered, laughing, taking photos. I could have felt lonely. I could have regretted everything. But instead, I packed a bag, called a car, and headed to the airport. Aspen was beautiful in winter. The resort was everything the photos promised: white peaks, warm fires, staff who treated guests like royalty. When I checked in, the manager smiled warmly. "Ms. Taylor, welcome. Your suite is ready." I walked through the lobby, past the massive Christmas tree, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. That night, I sat by the fireplace with a glass of wine, staring at the snow falling outside. My phone buzzed. A text from Blake. "Please, Amanda's crying. Mom won't stop. Just give us the trip back." I typed one word. "No." Then I blocked his number. On Christmas Eve, I woke to fresh snow covering the mountains. I spent the morning skiing, the afternoon reading by the fire, and the evening at the resort's holiday dinner. A family at the next table smiled at me. "Are you here alone?" the mother asked gently. I thought about how to answer. "Alone? Yes. Lonely, not even a little." "Just me," I said. She nodded kindly. "Sometimes that's the best gift." She had no idea how right she was. That night, I stepped onto my suite's balcony. The air was sharp and clean, the stars brighter than I'd ever seen them. Somewhere in Portland, my family was realizing what they'd lost. Not the trip, not the house, me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about it. When I returned to Seattle after New Year's, there were 17 voicemails waiting. I listened to exactly one. It was from Dad, his voice quiet and broken. "I didn't realize, I didn't see, I'm sorry." 3 sentences. 30 years too late. I saved it, not because I forgave him, but because I wanted to remember the moment he finally told the truth. Patricia called with an update. "They want to settle. They'll sign over full ownership of the house if you forgive the buyout amount." I thought about it, the house where I never felt welcome, the house that represented everything wrong with my childhood. "Sell it," I said. "I don't want it." "And the money?" Patricia asked. I smiled. "Donate half to a scholarship fund for kids in foster care, kids who actually need help. The rest goes into my retirement account." Patricia laughed. "You're something else." Maybe I was, but I was finally free. If you've ever been told you don't matter by the people who should have protected you, share your story below. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.